Hey guys, tonight we're diving into the world of medieval sieges. Those epic standoffs that might make your last binge watch session seem more like a cozy nap. Imagine waking up not to your snooze alarm symphony, but to the sound of a trebuchet drop-kicking boulders across the sky. You probably won't survive this, but don't worry, that's what makes it all the more fun, right? Before you get too comfy, feel free to tap like or subscribe, but only if you're genuinely enjoying the calm around here. Tell me where you're listening from and what time it is over there. I love seeing how far this sleepy little journey reaches. Now, go ahead and lower the lights. Maybe let a fan hum in the background, and let's drift gently into tonight's story together. You wake up with the sun peeking through the cracks of your little wooden hovel, its early rays poking your eyelids like an overly enthusiastic cat begging for breakfast. Only this time, you're not greeted by a contented purr, but rather a distant but discernible thunk, thunk, thunk. That, my dear listener, would be the sound of the siege you happen to be living through. It's as if someone set an overly ambitious home renovation next door. But instead of peaceful jazz music and a nice carpenter, it's anvils of doom being launched over your morning. You tentatively sit up, pulling the scratchy wool blanket closer around you, while the faint aroma of yesterday's porridge intertwines with the musty scent of your little nook, an indication that breakfast might just be whatever you didn't finish last night. And no, Grubhub doesn't deliver in a siege. Matter of fact, the idea of grocery shopping becomes more of a distant memory, like those toddler dreams of flying or passing algebra. The main historical fact is this: sieges in medieval times were long, arduous affairs that could last months, sometimes even years. A siege wasn't just a battle. It was a grueling test of endurance. Imagine mentally psyching yourself up every morning for a new, will today finally end the siege challenge, only to get the same anticlimactic results each time. As you stretch, a quirky thought nudges its way into your mind. Did you know that sometimes defenders would catapult dead animals over the castle walls? Yeah, historians found records, and it's less you of you and more, well, that's one way to spread disease. It's where creativity was maybe not at its best, but certainly at its boldest. And here's the wild bit that keeps historians awake long into the night. They still argue whether trebuchets or battering rams were more effective at breaking down those stubborn walls. It's the kind of debate you picture sipping lukewarm tea while wrapped in your coziest hoodie, the one still clinging to the scent of last Sunday's laundry, standing up with a groan that matches that of a medieval door, slowly inviting you into the world. You head over to the window. Peeking through, the bustling activity outside ripples with an undercurrent of tension. Archers pace atop the walls, sharing stories that have likely been told and retold like your sad attempt to cook a 4-course meal from scratch. It's camaraderie, bolstered by necessity, though you'd much rather be swiping through memes in a realm more accepting of light humor. And as you wander through the motions of a siege life morning, you know somewhere out there is a small white flag fluttering in the breeze. A cute little flag that's supposed to signal peace, but ironically, is probably just gathering dust in a closet somewhere, waiting for its time to shine like that forgotten college hoodie. There's a soft jangle nearby, a kitchen of sorts, where you've wisely stockpiled stale bread chunks like armor against encroaching hunger. Day-old bread might not scream delicious breakfast, but with some imagination and a little creativity, you transform it into a dish fit for royal questioning. Plus, ever tried dipping it in water? It surprisingly upgrades it from crouton wannabe to a respectable bread pudding strange cousin. An anachronistic chuckle escapes as you muse about these times, seeing it through the lens of your everyday moments. A stark leap from setting multiple alarms just to silence them in the name of extra sleep, to standing watch because who else will warn of incoming trebuchets? Fortifying yourself for the umpteenth day of surviving a siege, the question drifts through your mind like a feather on the breeze. Could you trade this life for something as adventurous? Surely, historians will debate whether Stones or Parley was the true hero in ending these long standoffs. Yet here you are, snuggled in your medieval corner, while another unusual morning begins in a world that feels both miles and centuries away, tantalizing with its echoes and mysteries. But for now, you're just content with the routine chaos, holding on to the comforting thought that even in the thick of medieval warfare, mornings might just be about finding a fresh way to cherish the simple moments. As the day stretches its limbs outside your window, you take another steadying breath and prepare to face it head on. Or maybe, just maybe, ask it to wait a few more minutes while you enjoy the relative quiet that prances on the edge of the inevitable storm. Because honestly, isn't craving just a bit more of a snooze a timeless part of the human experience? The sun is slowly climbing the horizon when you attempt to leave the comfort of your little cocoon of blankets. The air holds a chilly bite, reminding you of those times you accidentally left the window cracked open at night and woke up with cold toes despite the fortress of comforters. As you shuffle toward the makeshift kitchen area, you can't help but think how nice it would be to have a cup of coffee right now. But in a medieval siege, caffeine is about as real as a flying horseless carriage. Or, a social life without instant messaging. Breakfast isn't exactly an event you look forward to. Gone are the brunches with avocado toast and cappuccinos sprinkled with precisely aligned art. Instead, you're looking at stale bread, perhaps a hunk of cheese that's seen better days, or maybe, if you're lucky, a pottage that gives you that comforting yet somewhat questionable primordial soup vibe. You never thought you'd miss cereal in a mismatched bowl so much, and here's a real historical nugget for you. During sieges, food supplies were often sparse, leading to creative cuisines that might make today's experimental foodies shudder. People were known to eat whatever they could find, including animals, and sometimes even boiled leather belts. It's like calling shoe soup rustic cuisine in parts of the Middle Ages. Bet that wasn't a recipe handed down with love through the generations. You chuckle at the absurd parallel to your own master chef attempts. When 2-day-old leftovers suddenly become fusion cuisine with a splash of ketchup. The reality of improvisation in cooking is one timeless tradition we can all share, even if yours doesn't involve anything too questionably authentic, and you can't help but wonder, wouldn't it be neat if you could send carrier pigeons to deliver food like medieval DoorDash? As it turns out, during sieges, pigeons were sometimes used to fly messages over enemy lines, kind of like a primitive, feathery email system. Imagine the debates of elite bird mail runners, contrasting with today's arguments over the merits of old-school texts versus DMs. Historians still argue whether messages of vital importance or mere gossip were more commonly sent through these aerial acrobats. Maybe today's equivalent is arguing if the group chat was muted on purpose, or if it's just your Wi-Fi acting up again. Sometimes the medieval past feels like it's just a fun, exaggerated version of our reality now, with more feathers involved. Sneaking a peek outside, you watch the world encircle you. People moving with purpose, trying to outsmart boredom and survive. Children run in predictable patterns, playing games of laughter and echoing reminders that life continues even within walls that trap and protect. Behind the scenes, there are whispered conversations about strategy, next moves, and whether those approaching clouds signal more than just a change in weather. You shake your head at the precarious world temporarily housing you and find yourself comparing it to the act of reading. You know that feeling when you're almost at the end of a chapter, but aren't quite willing to finish it until you're sure it's right to turn the page. Settling into your spot, you watch the community evolve, adapt, and respond. For every tumble of stone and clamor of armor echoed from beyond the walls, a flicker of the mundane dances within. Scratching down plans that might save tomorrow with the hum of medieval engineering, a piece of which you dare to believe might be history's way of teaching you about creativity under pressure. There's chatter about rationing supplies, a task where the line between perseverance and persistence blurs into a strategic balancing act. You're reminded of how you've attempted to budget at the bookstore, resulting in that fifth novel you don't technically need, but definitely have to own. Admittedly, not a siege dilemma, but survival of the literary kind can be just as dire. And when the twilight sends shadows racing across your dwelling, a soft stillness settles over the camp. The hopeful click and clatter of wooden bowls, the scraping of spoons against well-worn surfaces. This is the lull in the chaos, that sleepy moment where anticipation yields to acceptance of the night. Candles flicker as if to whisper comfort to the anxious hearts crowded around them, much like the soft glow of fairy lights crawling across the wall of your room back home. With the stars beginning their nightly vigil, you take a deep breath, acknowledging that your shelter for tonight still stands strong. Can you imagine how earlier civilizations looked to the sky with wonder? Their constellations the same faint pinpricks we count cheerfully when cloudless nights offer a wider view? Yet there they are, both harbinging their secrets and feats, and overseeing your descent into what will hopefully be a soothing, restful slumber. So here you sit, old socks and all, bidding good night to yet another day amid wood and stone, listening closely as the night wraps itself around the gentle, breathing rhythm of those unlikely surviving and somehow thriving beside you. And really, when you think about it, it kind of makes you feel that just as sieges eventually lift, so too do those little moments of weary hearts eventually find peace and renewed vigor, especially as you've managed to uncover yet one more story woven into the tapestry of our past. As daylight slowly dissipates into a mellow twilight, you find yourself contemplating the medicinal options available during a siege. Picture this. You're dealing with a scratchy throat that reminds you more of sandpaper than anything else. In the medieval days, this isn't a quick dash to the clinic scenario. Instead, you're likely to encounter a concoction of herbs and hope. Think of it as the medieval equivalent of Googling home remedies at an inconceivable hour. Let me share a historical fact. Scurvy, the bane of sailors and sieges alike, would have you praying for more than just a wedge of lemon. Without access to fresh fruits or vegetables, vitamin C deficiency wasn't just likely. It was practically expected. They didn't exactly have those handy multivitamins we ignore while scrolling through TikTok. pretending we're searching for just the right song to motivate us to work out, but then getting distracted for an hour. Scratch beneath the surface of a siege, and you uncover a peculiar tactic that would fit right into a Netflix documentary on extreme survival techniques. During a long siege, defenders might sneakily row during the night and raid the blockaders' camps, snatching up supplies like a medieval Black Friday run. It brings a chuckle, imagining them sneaking under the moonlight, their version of shopping sure to get them more than just a few raised eyebrows. And, oh, the historians still argue whether the ancient practice of bloodletting helped or harmed in such tense circumstances. While some believed it rebalanced bodily humors, others argue it might have merely added another layer of discomfort, sort of like wearing your wooliest sweater right into a surprise heat wave. But, hey, when every remedy is a shot in the dark, trying a bit of everything might seem like a reasonable strategy. With a smile, you marvel at the adaptability of those who once lived within palisaded walls. Brushing off the evening chill, you can't help but feel gratitude for your modern conveniences, like central heating or the calming glow of your screens. All those tiny distractions making the rough edges of reality seem a tad smoother. In a makeshift chamber, a fancy title for a communal meeting spot, you gather with others, sharing stories under the guise of strategy sessions. Laughter filters through the room, a welcome guest that brightens perspectives and lightens heavy hearts. If there's one thing that hasn't changed through the ages, it's the strength found in togetherness. Like friends, congregating around their phones, indulging in meme-filled bonding after a tough day. Through sly winks and cheeky exchanges, you wonder if these medieval gatherings weren't all that different from group chats of today. Banter bouncing back and forth like a badminton match played in spoken verse. And when you're not busy relaying important bits of gossip, you're probably just pondering which siege weapon might be the medieval equivalent of a strong Wi-Fi connection. Catapults bringing excitement with just a dash of chaos. Climbing up to the walls, the cool breeze kisses your cheeks while you keep watch over the sleepy realm around you. There's something deeply contemplative about standing there, considering your place in the lineage of humanity, on a wall nestled within history, just as a lighthouse keeper tends to the beacon on a stormy night. As the sky stretches over with an array of stars that dance in the dark suspension, you might pause and think about those moments when you've closed your fridge door just to see if the contents have somehow changed, as though your kitchen might exist in its own little siege against time and creative cuisine. The sounds around you are strange, a mixture of whispers, the rustle of armor, and the chorus of insects finding harmony with the lullaby of the evening. From a distance, it's occasionally drowned out by a faint metallic clang, reminding you of those nights trying to sleep with the persistent hum of your fan wobbling offbeat in the corner. It's odd to think of sieges not just as events steeped in strife, but as chronicles of survival, resilience, and community. Within the blend of ancient and modern, there's a warmth that comes with understanding of how humans, no matter the timeline or tribulations, endlessly find ways to adapt and carry on. Before long, your eyelids grow heavy, lulled by the murmuring echoes from below and the shared resilience of stories that transcend the years. And as you retreat from your perch, slipping back into the comfort of your snug cocoon, you smile at the thought that even in the midst of trying moments, light-hearted humor and shared experience remain the comely threads binding us together through time. So, let the whispers of history guide you out to the open sea of dreams, a place where the rhythmic sway of centuries rocks you into the gentlest of nights, assured that even the toughest sieges eventually find their peaceful end. With the night air cool against your skin, you find yourself wrapping that scratchy wool blanket around you tighter, weaving into the gentle rhythm of the night. It's as if the stars themselves are humming a lullaby, encouraging even the most wakeful to drift. Siege or no siege, sleep is an irresistible force, tugging at your senses like a quiet, insistent whisper. But the night isn't just for slumber. It's also prime time for those dedicated to the insomniac arts of worry and scheme. You might imagine, somewhere behind those walls, knights and strategists arching brows over candlelit maps, trying to figure out if the spot they picked is where the enemy will breach the walls, or just the equivalent of medieval Excel sheet stress. Like handling one of those all-too-common server-down messages that send shockwaves through the office, these moments are key. It's in the pause before, the anticipation creating a chill down your spine, a hesitation that echoes through the stillness of the night. Speaking of strategy, here's a historical tidbit for you. Soldiers caught in prolonged sieges would sometimes enjoy makeshift tournaments within their walls, a clash of arms to maintain morale. You can picture the scenes: makeshift jousts, perhaps knights on foot rather than horseback, playing their version of the obstacle courses that make us nostalgic for playground days. And here's a quirky little detail. Some ingenious commanders would even organize sleep schedules, trying to optimize rest without compromise, almost like running a tight ship, or more accurately, a fortress. It's like having an efficient bedtime routine that you regularly pretend exists, but silently acknowledge that in reality, you never stick to. Historians still pore over medieval manuscripts, arguing whether these supposed tournaments were more than just attempts to stave off cabin fever, or were elaborate stress relief protocols effectively masking internal disputes. Much like how some companies debate whether team-building exercises genuinely build teams or just provide week-long meme fodder. As the night grows deeper, the sounds in your little corner of the world soften to a hush. The crackle of a distant scout's torch, the quiet rustle of fabric as cloaks and tunics shift over armor. Together, these form the lullaby of siege life, mingling with the gentle chorus of frogs or crickets that fill the dark, singing its praises for those who stay listen. Back in the snug bedside embrace of your temporary siege home, part of you starts creating stories like those knights of old. You are a defender, protecting your home from relentless waves of marauders. And the other part of you can't help but chuckle at such whimsy, knowing soon you'll be back in your fuzzy slippers, watching streams you neglected because, honestly, you couldn't resist the pull of yet another episode. Your mind drifts between dreams and idle fantasies, visions of unpredictable arsenal experiments. The alchemists of yore experimenting with new potions like a science class gone wonderfully awry. The past dancing with imagination, creating sparks that light your sleepy world like brilliant fireflies against a backdrop of starlit wondering. Finally, sleep calls you to soften your waking thoughts. Let the waking world fade into shadow. Entrust anxieties to the stars. Because for now, it's enough to simply be part of this rhythm, a timeless dance between battle and respite, strategy and sleep. And as dreams gather to pull you gently under, you discover a deep gratitude for that endless fortitude shared with those who once grappled with stone and strategy, like the hum of your fridge, gently accompanying you to dreams upon dreams, guarded by the comforting embrace of memory and time. As the final tendrils of wakefulness depart, you surrender to a different kind of siege, a peaceful one of slumber, serenity, and starry possibility, knowing that tomorrow brings newfound tales, and the great adventure continues. The soft embrace of dawn gently tugs at your senses, creeping in with the elusive promise of warmth and light. Your dreams, distant images of knights, trebuchets, and frantic defenses segue perfectly into this foggy consciousness. This half-world of the waking is almost as dreamy as the night, and you're so comfortable snuggled into your makeshift bed that getting up seems a formidable foe, rivaling the siege you've become so accustomed to. You slowly stretch, feeling the slight stiffness in your muscles from sleeping in a position that, let's be honest, might have been optimal for a medieval sleeping mat, but screams for a chiropractor in today's world. Yet, in this sparse reality, there is a unique charm, a slowing down that offers introspection as deep as any TikTok rabbit hole dive, yet without the blue light burn. Breakfast, if you dare call it that, waits, proving once again the culinary struggle of sustenance with limited resources. Today, you find yourself staring down a bowl of gruel that, with enough imagination, might pretend to rival oatmeal, and before you, just possibly, a sack of limp vegetables and grains that would be a hardship or an opportunity, depending on one's outlook. It's all very MasterChef, Siege Edition. A delightful historical morsel now. Herbs were a staple of medieval siege meals, not just for nutrition, but also as a means to mask the less than desirable flavors of aging food supplies. It's like using 3 packets of hot sauce on day-old takeout to revive it into an acceptable lunch. Basil, thyme, rosemary, perhaps a gift to relieve the endless monotone of preserved goods. These culinary challenges stem not solely from a lack of supplies. Historians still argue if blockades purposefully targeted certain food types, or if it was all luck of the draw. Some culinary schools of thought suggest these were on-the-fly decisions, much like deciding whether making a quick stop for coffee is worth risking the morning's rushed timeline. With a reluctant grin stretching across your tired face, you reflect on quirky siege tales. For instance, did you know that siege engineers sometimes created scale models of the fortress they were trying to breach, using miniature replicas to test out strategies? The image of men crowded around their tiny castles, plotting with small, intricate wooden ladders, builds a sort of nostalgia, akin to assembling model kits, with oversized, tangled plastic instructions spread across your kitchen table. Stepping outside into the cool morning air, which feels more invigorating than any caffeine kick, it hits you anew how alive your senses feel when survival dictates attentiveness to the world around you, nudging you to acknowledge the myriad details of morning light, casting soft shadows across the stone. And then there's the matter of hygiene. Were it not rich with irony, it would seem almost comic. Siege conditions were such that the very concept of clean becomes somewhat philosophical rather than practical. With no running water or soap, bath days were few and far between, and the communal wash was likely unwelcome, but ultimately necessary. Imagining a medieval communal bath is a bit like conjuring an image of a packed sauna, only with none of the benefits and way too much authenticity. Grabbing a ladleful of chilly water from a basin, you splash your face, and it strikes you how such tiny rituals can be deeply soothing, a form of recalibration of your senses when your current situation stretches you in every direction and circumstance bends your parameters of comfort. Before long, voices beckon from beyond your door, an informal summoning to another community convergence of sorts, where plans are shared, strategies tested, much like a modern brainstorming session or any Monday morning meeting where nothing runs on schedule anyway. At the heart of these gatherings, much like any group dynamic, laughter trickles through. Humor, that rare and common thread, fostering unity and resilience amid the trials. And, much like reacting to an unexpected Instagram update or a meme gone wildly wrong, these moments resemble slight sparks offering lightheartedness in otherwise weighty situations. So, with the day unfurling its tentative plans and strong coffee, merely a dream belonging to a time millennia forward, initiatives and objectives weave into webs of evolving strategy, wrapped snug in the comforting knowledge that early risers today, as then, have found much wisdom in rising with the sun. Yet, confronted with these overlapping eras, these truths the past shares with the present, your spirit kindles. Because knowing that people, past and present, face uncertainty with such humor and tenacity grants a sense of meaning to a narrative that stretches far beyond any siege, far beyond any hardship. And just as this morning will inevitably yield tonight, the stories you hold within will always find their own way to continue, embrace, and cherish. As the sun continues to stretch its golden rays across the landscape, you find yourself slipping ever so slightly into the day's rhythm. Each footstep along the beaten paths within your fortifications tells a story. A soft crunch on dirt, revealing a time-honored tradition of resilience and communal fortitude. You've settled into this peculiar siege life with a surprising semblance of normalcy, the sort of acceptance that arrives after you've set every single alarm and ignored the lot, giving in to fate's timing. All around, there's the clanging song of armor being adjusted, the shuffle of feet, the occasional bark of a commander hollering plans to soldiers who've begun to consider these echoes more like daily affirmations. It's a world suspended in tension and camaraderie, swirling in an uncertain orbit until it all reaches its due conclusion. Now here's an intriguing nugget for your historical collection. Siege warfare saw engineers inventing elaborate attack and defense mechanisms, a prime example being the towering siege towers, or belfries. Think of them as the medieval counterpart to the modern high-rise. Only these were less about city views and more about getting past wooden spikes into the heart of your enemy's fortress. Moving structures equipped with gangplanks, it's difficult not to imagine some medieval, besieged engineer sketching out blueprints late into the night, much like how one might daydream about an IKEA assembly made successful on the first try. Today, you also hear whispers of a peculiar plan circling through the community, the secret escape routes. Tunnels carved deep beneath the earth, offering the hope of an unseen exit, or possibly a surprise flank on the besieging forces. Historians still debate whether tunneling posed more threat to the tunnelers themselves. Stifling air and loose earth are hardly the trappings of scenic tour. But there's something undeniably thrilling about secretive subterranean paths and the grit of unresting determination they represent. Chores, communal work, and the everyday motions. Yes, life does continue, despite the gray skies looming overhead, seem to flow seamlessly, intertwined with conversation. Smiles break through worry when long-told tales revive humor with new sparks. And someone suggests organizing a small game, a mock contest, and for an instant, the medieval courtyard feels animated, life pulsing through its veins as if it's game night at an overcrowded friend's place, trying to squeeze onto the couch just to claim the best seat in the house. In the afternoon sun, as it filters through gaps between battlements, You pause to consider anxieties simmering within, reflecting on stones that have felt the feet of countless others who once pondered their plights and paths. Thoughts flutter to the present, where anxiety often mingles with endless to-do lists, reminders hidden in subtle dings and notifications. Such natural drift leads you to consider, is the siege, with its constancy and companionship, not unlike being cradled within the blanket of data's ever-receptive glow? Like how each message offers another layer of interaction, these walls offer their own kind of tales, whispers emanating from the crude marks and etchings left behind. Pulling your mind from roaming farther still, you rejoin those around you. Someone's whistling a tune that you're sure was catchy way before your time. Much like skipping through an oldies playlist just to land on that one track everyone mysteriously knows. You catch a few joining in, sharing smiles and breathy laughter as you collectively bask in a moment of lightness, the worries receding, even if momentarily. Curiosity tugs at your consciousness like a restless dream, balancing between tangible urgencies and daydream solutions. Solutions, like minds in coordinated combat against indecision, imagining layouts and possibilities. Much like the way strategic email chains appear endless in their quest to corral thoughts into consensus. Within this medieval tapestry, you sense a reflection of human experience, our capacity to tiptoe through balancing arts of survival and existence, hardships and humanities, laughter and reflection. And as shadows lengthen and thoughts unspool, weaving connections back through time, you recognize the familiarity of seeking humor amid tension, finding connection moment to moment, bridging gaps in time with an undying resilience that language nor siege can contain. Eventually, evening whispers gently encourage routines to settle into a comforting predictability. Your shared resolve embraces the night, united by enduring tales that, though anchored in stone, uplift like the warm glow of fairy lights, guiding you into peaceful dreams. As evening quietly tiptoes in, wrapping the world in a comforting shade of indigo, you find yourself nestled among friends gathered around a small fire. The air is a mosaic of savory scents. Charred wood, mingling with the remnants of cooked grains that speak of creativity born from necessity. The rhythmic crackle of flames provides a soothing soundtrack, almost like sitting beside a cozy wood stove while the wind howls outside, cut off from the rest of the world for a moment's peace. It's a peculiar luxury, this chance to unwind, where glances across the fire communicate more than words could convey, forging camaraderie in shared glances and silent mirth. You laugh at an old story of bravery way before your time, as if medieval jesters had somehow slipped through the cracks of history to remind everyone that humanity has always found humor, even when times get tough. And honestly, it reminds you of how easy it is to text LOL without ever cracking a smile, finding comfort in familiar exchanges that bind you closer to those around you. Here's a real tidbit of history nestled into the heart of the story. Chess, one of the diversions during these long sieges, became almost an obsession for some besieged knights. The game, with its strategic thrusts and sidelong gambits, was as much a mind game as the siege itself. Pawns mirroring foot soldiers, knights and kings embroiled in perpetual conflict. It's a game that somehow survived and thrived throughout the centuries, uniting befuddled beginners and strategic chess masters in its nuanced dance. You quietly laugh at the idea. Who knew that your chess tournament last week, or your dabbling with an app on your phone, had such ancient lineage? Amidst flickering shadows, someone shares a strange, quirky anecdote. During one attack, an inventive soul tied torches to birds, letting them fly over the enemy lines to simulate an aerial onslaught. A wry smile dances across your lips, a medieval precursor to today's drone shows, albeit less effective, a plot more befitting of a children's storybook about daring avian adventures. Exploring the uncertainty and unpredictability of siege life, you ponder this debate that historians still chew over with relish. Was the psychological warfare of sieges as impactful as physical combat? Choices and responses accompany debates on tactics, much as one might scroll past endless comments on a subdued subreddit argument. Intriguing enough to skim, but largely resigned to ever-evolving interpretations. With dusk shifting to embrace deeper shades, your thoughts thread through these tiny shards of history, a delicate weaving of moments where light-hearted jest and solemn duty coexist like precious heirlooms meeting glorified thrift store finds. The fire, now settling lower, casts the gentle glow of an end-of-day sun, tinted strangely in the tints of old photographs, offering warmth as your companions' voices begin to soften, surrendered to the impending coziness of night. You gaze at their sleepy silhouettes, senses drifting toward exhaustion, knowing that a lullaby of voices, whispers, and sighing embers will soon serenade you into slumber. There's something profoundly reassuring about sharing this time right before the world surrenders to stillness. It's like that perfect balance when you've replied to all your messages and notifications, much like your nightly ritual of closing emails one by one with a satisfying click, promising undisturbed sleep. At least until tomorrow beckons with its untamed curiosity. As the gentle murmurs around you sink to the calming rhythm of time ticking away, your eyes grow heavy, begging for sleep. You surrender to the serene embrace of a siege heavy with shared stories, timeless resilience, and undying laughter, lulled by the mystery of the ages playing as a peaceful backdrop. Dreams promise a melodious symphony of ancestors' songs and whimsical wonders, guiding you into tomorrow with quiet strength. And with a final flicker of conscious thought, you embrace the night, grateful that history holds such wonder. And as it cradles your slumber, you know that tomorrow's story will unfold with tender whispers, ever more entwined across generations. With the darkness fully settled around you, the camp slowly quiets. The night's cool breeze brushes your cheeks, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and the mingling aromas of earthy, worn leather and aged wood. These smells seem to wrap around you like a snug cloak, a kind-hearted reminder that even in the heart of chaos, there's a whisper of serenity folding itself around you. You settle back, feeling the comforting wool blanket's scratchy warmth against your skin, half listening to the soft whispers of those around you, recounting morsels of the day, or perhaps old tales meant to soothe your journey into sleep. It's a gentle lull, a lullaby more soothing than any playlist on repeat, promising a tapestry of dreams woven from the stories you've shared, rich with layers of history overlapping with a flicker of imagination. Here's an intriguing historical nugget to cradle your thoughts as you drift. Many besieged citizens wrote messages of hope or requests for help, hiding them within hollowed-out projectiles carefully lobbed over battlements. Letters and news, concealed safely like fragile treasures. A communication network in a time before reliable postal services or the convenience of messaging apps. You can almost imagine the thrill of receiving such messages, deciphered by torchlight, like checking your phone at night just to find a message that's special. Even if it's just a late reply saying, "Are you awake?" Pausing, you explore one more quirky detail. Some besieged townsfolk found light relief in composing songs and poems. Their music echoed off stone walls, encouraging hearts and offering solace. It's akin to the instinctual act of turning to a beloved playlist to lift spirits and heart alike, a timeless collage of rhythms and resonance. Historians still debate whether these creative outbursts were acts of defiance or a softer surrender to life's uncertain sweetness, an enduring testament to humankind's need for expression. Much like the age-old debates on whether late-night journaling is cathartic or merely entertaining, these endeavors are threads in the grand tapestry connecting the then and the now. The quiet conversation surrounding you is like the cadence of the ocean's tides, gentle and rhythmic. It's an immersive experience, spilling reassurance into your soul. Friends settled nearby share jokes, the pull of laughter lightening the weight of the day. It is during such tranquil pauses that the thin veneer overlaying fear and hope slowly peels away, revealing humanity's enduring resilience while contrasting the tug-of-war of emotions keeping every soul alert as a night lantern. As your eyelids grow heavier still, yielding to the magnetic pull towards slumber, you picture the siege as more than a test of survival. It becomes a rite of remembrance and recognition. Despite its trials and demands, there's solace in knowing that those who endured leaned into creativity, mischief, and humor, as do we, translating memories and dreams into whispered stories to be carried forward. So here you are, gently closing your eyes against the world's siege as echoes of laughter and muted tales fold like the pages of a book, enveloping the senses in warmth and familiarity. With the fire's subtle glow fading from sight, you drift into a soft cradle of dreams. As sleep's cozy embrace takes hold, a sense of peace settles within, assuring you that you're part of an unending narrative, quietly linking yesterday's tales to today's moments and tomorrow's promises. Letting out a final, sleepy exhale, you let the night carry you aloft on this all-encompassing journey, where the past gently whispers its secrets, safeguarding ensconced dreams that stitch together the infinite mosaic of time. The siege's gentle quietude wraps around you, whispering sweet wishes. May slumber bring solace, and may your soul awaken refreshed, ready to face new dawns with the unwavering strength and grace reflected in the heartbeats of our shared history. The break of dawn peeks shyly over the horizon, nudging the dark hues of night into the soft pastels of morning. You begin to stir beneath your blanket, feeling the familiar mix of roughness and warmth against your skin. It's a gentle awakening, one that draws you from the comforting embrace of dreams, woven with the threads of history and imagination. You blink against the soft golden light that fills your space, stretching limbs that feel a bit lighter, the heaviness of night's weight having lifted. As you fully rouse, you notice the camp around you slowly coming to life in an orchestrated harmony of yawns and shuffled steps, a symphony of groggy greetings, much like those weekday mornings when every room seems to echo with the same half-awake rituals. There's something oddly reassuring about the predictable start, as if the very act of waking together strengthens the bonds between all those sharing this small siege world. There's a subtle nostalgia to the morning routine happening around you, like the cherished warmth of lukewarm coffee sipped from your favorite chipped mug, or the comfort found in knowing exactly how each day begins, even amid uncertainty. Though breakfast still lacks modern conveniences, there's freshness in the air. Ration spoils stewed overnight simmer over crackling fires, creating aromas that tickle awake taste buds with promises of subtle delights. Here's a historical gem to sharpen your morning senses. Bread became a vital staple, fortified with whatever grains were available, sometimes verging on the edge of inedible. Yet with imagination, it was revived into something welcome, a reminder of comfort found in shared mealtime antics. It's similar to finding creative ways to repurpose leftovers at home, coaxing flavors into newfound treasures. One quirky side note piques your historical curiosity. Some defenders would amuse themselves by creating intricate designs in food presentation, sculpting strength and humor into even the simplest of dishes. Historians discuss whether these artistic flares were born of a desire to maintain spirits or merely served as novelty, a savory pastime to defy the staleness creeping into daily routine. It's not unlike the creativity that feeds curated food art on Instagram, or plating skills displayed with pride, regardless of the humble origins of the meal. While the fortress comes alive with industrious movement, there's chatter over newfound plans. The day will involve repair work, mended walls, and new strategies combined. Friends come together, much like a team tuning up for a daunting project ahead, each individual piece crucial to the whole. You imagine the hum of productivity, the clatter of tools, and the exchange of light-hearted banter steadily building morale like bricks into ramparts, sturdy against whatever challenges may loom on the horizon. Everyday tasks find their rhythm, each activity a note adding to the melody of medieval life. There's a strange comfort in the measured clockwork of this antiquated world, blending with the softer cadence of jest and banter exchanged between those working in tandem. You can almost hear the cohesion of email titans bearing chat messages in a modern office cubicle, interspersed with the gently mocking click of keys half buried beneath old-school rustling for ancient mercantile records. It's a dynamic world, a cycle unbroken by the passage of time. And somewhere within this timeless space, you realize historians still debate whether this day-to-day survival amid sieges was more about preparation or patience extracted from hardship. It sparks a thought. The real battle might have been a test of endurance, how to contain hope for tomorrow within the hungry bellies and cautious hearts of today. The day unfolds its plans, and beneath this siege, sky lies a hidden gratitude for moments that bind and heal, reminding us that endurance is as shared as it is personal, and humor as essential as fortitude. Much like laughing at a cartoonish mishap, despite the stress pulling at life's seams, there's strength found in acknowledging rough edges before smoothing them out. And so, you step steadily back into the motions, tracing familiar steps along weathered paths shaped by history and rhythm. Each footfall brings you closer to the stories yet untold, to friendships forged stronger than the stones themselves, as if walking upon the pages of unwritten tales, whispering through each fragile turn like autumn leaves gently caught in the arms of the breeze. As the day settles into a gentle hum around you, you find peace in knowing that tomorrow will gift you another chance to write a new chapter in this shared existence. A new horizon seen from the walls of an old fortress, painted bright against dawn's shimmering palette. A time-torn vessel carrying the promise of another day. The morning continues to unfurl gracefully, the golden light softening as it spills over each stone and rafter of your temporary home. With the world now awake and rumbling with purpose, you find yourself navigating through the communal energy that's infused with the refreshing clarity of a crisp new day. There's a buzz in the air, a low, steady hum of activity, punctuated by the rhythmic tap, tap, tap of hammers wielded by diligent hands. As you join the tasks set out for the day, it strikes you how siege life tends to blend the urgent with the mundane. Much like tackling a sprawling to-do list, flooded with both high-stakes presentations and the quest for mismatched socks, what might seem hasty on the surface slowly blends into a pattern of order, weaving urgency into the very fabric of routine. Today, the architects of innovation are discussing the potential use of potash, a chemical discovered centuries ago, used in ancient times to create soap and preserve meat, and now employed in various siege tactics. It's the kind of quirky find that makes modern life feel almost too neat, as if time's tapestry twists backward, revealing strings connecting past discoveries to our chemically cleansed future. Here's a bit of historical nuance to tickle your curiosity. Besieged communities sometimes added brick dust to their mortar to reinforce hastily rebuilt walls, as if transforming fragile seams into formidable unions. Imagine today taking every colored pencil stub, pigment, and random patch you have and, in a fit of inspiration, painting an abstract mural across your living room wall. Intriguing, isn't it? Somewhere within these fortifications, the art of conversation flourishes. Tonight's gathering will meld minds over meals, with discussions as vivid as the stories etched into walls. Shared laughter rolls like the waves of a jubilant sea across the assembled friends. Each hearty chuckle, a reminder that connections can sparkle even within the pensive shadows. And here lies an ongoing debate. Historians still chat about the impact of high morale forged through these creative respites, questioning whether these interactions served as pivotal as tactical victories or mere fleeting counterpoints to the weight of siege fatigue. It's a theme deeply woven into the fabric of human endurance, how every day holds morsels of joy amid struggle, serving as both reminder and balm. Amid the dynamic interplay of challenges and camaraderie, your mind momentarily drifts. You imagine the fortress as an age-old pinboard, adorned with messages both short and sweet, shared by friends and lovers. In that patchworked canvas of history, these exchanges echo across time, finding resonance like those moments when texted memes become cherished excerpts of silliness, tucked away for rainy day revisitings. Outside, the air is captivatingly cool, and the sun begins its descent, painting the sky in lazy strokes of pink and gold against the horizon's edge. You stand, watching as shadows lengthen, contemplating how the fortress transforms into a living storybook at this hour. A tale woven more with shades of empathy and complexity, and as ever, anticipation for what the dusk might unravel. As you stroll among the paths and people now painted in dusky hues, light-hearted whispers brush by as gentle prompts, inviting pause. Maybe today's feats and trials will simply serve as yesterday's quiet reflections, smirking out from beneath the covers of tomorrow's unknowns, much akin to pondering a jigsaw puzzle, its pieces scattered across a kitchen table, bare before potential and plucky imagination. In this montage of shared voices and steady crafts of fortification, you find comfort not just within the sturdy walls, but in the promises made between comrades, speaking truths imbued with care and timeless understanding. Here, the world breathes courage into uncertainty, nuzzling secrets and dreams among friends hidden away within muted yet glimmering twilight spaces. Settling into the evening's restful embrace, you allow your heart to fill with the comforting knowledge that postscripts will mark another page within this palimpsest of days. As you lean into the amiable darkness, the story isn't simply an echo of the siege. It's the burgeoning chronicle of resilience, unfurling itself benevolently across the horizon's dream-haunted dusk. As the evening deepens, you find yourself magnetically drawn to the communal gathering, where tonight's feast feels like a celebration of survival and unity. The day's labors seem lighter now, softened by the laughter and stories bouncing around the group like tiny sparks illuminating the coziness of friendship. There's something inherently magnetic about these gatherings, pulling everyone toward one another, much like the gravitational force that draws us to binge-watch comforting shows, even as the clock ticks ever onward. The meal shared is simple, yet comforting, sustaining both body and spirit. Porridge enriched by foraged herbs and the subtle sweetness of dried fruits reserved as tiny luxuries. The flavors dance across your palate, familiar and satisfying, like rediscovering a favorite mixtape nestled in the bottom of an old drawer. Each track a reminder of nostalgic resonance. A historical fact quietly slips into your consciousness. Besieged communities found that resourcefulness often yielded the most satisfying results. Soups and stews became alchemical experiments, stretching limited ingredients into nourishing bounty. Grain meals and preserved goods were transformed with clever spice combinations, an everyday enchantment that turned necessity into ingenious feasts, a testament to human creativity amidst adversity. Among the group, you notice a lively discussion centered on siege weaponry. The debate almost feels like a spectator sport, reminiscent of those gaming tournaments you've watched in awe, wide-eyed at the passion and zeal. There's talk of trebuchets, those magnificent hurlers of destruction, creating physics-defying feats with counterweights and innovative engineering. The room brims with animated gesticulations, each story embellishing the legend, almost as if siege engineers had composed a symphony in stone and sinew. In a quirky turn, someone adds that defenders once launched barrels of beer at besieging foes, proving that using unconventional ammunition could bring both surprise and merriment. It's the kind of tidbit that makes you think of food fights as a last-ditch defense strategy at a rowdy family picnic, a melding of necessity and humor that lingers through time. Meanwhile, historians still volley words across the ages, questioning the true impact of such creative strategies. Were these techniques strokes of brilliance, or ultimately just temporary distractions, often boiling down to an appreciation for ingenuity, which, like any good cup of coffee, awakens the senses to new dimensions. As the conversation moves toward a lighter mood, you lean back, feeling the warmth of the gathering seeping into your bones, kindling a gentle glow within. Soft murmurings mingle with laughter. In this twilight moment, you're held securely within the bonds of companionship and congenial banter, savoring an experience that transcends time and distance. Then, almost like magic, the night wraps its comforting arms around the gathering, encouraging sighs of contentment. You realize that this time between the light and dark serves as a balm for weary souls, coaxing hope and resilience from the depths of the human spirit. The stars, now blinking serenely against the midnight velvet, beckon you to reflect on the fortifications that stretch beyond stone and timber, those built of friendship, stories, and the shared heartbeat of humanity. In these delicate moments, you feel a profound connection to those who once faced life's crusades with humor and hope, leaving their quiet whispers for you to discover in the silvery threads of dreams. Eventually, the fire dwindles and companions retreat, leaving only the faint glow of embers as night's gentle lullaby invites slumber. You curl beneath your blanket's tender embrace, your mind dancing with the stories and laughter of the day, knowing that even amid the siege, warmth and light will perseveringly shine through. As you let the curves of history and camaraderie carry you into sleep, you find comfort in being part of the timeless weave, a shared story defying the boundaries set by walls, siege, or shadow. It is here, wrapped in the night's peaceful hush, that you find solace. And with a final whisper, you drift into the forgiving arms of dreamless slumber, at peace with the world, however besieged it may be. As the dawn unravels slowly over the silhouette of the fortress, you find yourself stirring once more to the symphony of morning hustle, a sequence of familiar tunes that every person, every stone, and every wooden beam seems to dance to. The world outside is filled with the gentle echoes of renewed life, as if each day, born anew, brings with it an iridescent promise of possibility. Awake and stretching into the morning air, you savor those first lucid moments when the fog of sleep lifts gently from your mind, clearing away remnants of dreams, like a soft whisper dissipating into the ether. The air holds a crispness, a refreshing cool that feels much like splashing cold water on your face, the kind that shocks your senses just enough to jumpstart the day. With breakfast, a distant echo in the vineyards of gathering daylight, the world around you slowly comes into focus. A patchwork of purposeful movements, tilting busy hands toward duties designed to fortify both spirit and stone. And you too are caught up in this delicate orchestration, finding yourself swept along in the mix of strategy and survival. Here's a morsel of history to accompany your morning routine. Besiegers and defenders alike were often known to deploy decoy camps, artfully arranged mounds of straw, and fabric shaped to mimic a bustling encampment, set as a diversionary feat. These illusions were much like stagecraft, doing justice to the art of deception centuries before cinematic trickery was ever conceived. Amid the day's plans, your tasks blur into an immersive rhythm where every stone lifted, every stitch mended, feels intertwined with the pulse of humanity. In this theater, practical ingenuity becomes the mother of necessity, transforming situations into forges where both iron and ingenuity are shaped and sharpened. Of course, humor finds its own inklings even here. There are murmurs of a story involving a knight who disguised himself as a bauble-laden bush to outwit the besiegers, a ruse so bold that it gave rise to a kind of folklore. Much like donning a mismatched ensemble on laundry day, it sparks laughter amidst friends, proving that levity finds its strongest footing where daring resides. Historians still find themselves lost in debates over the subtleties of siege psychology. Was the mental fortitude required as vital as physical defense? Such musings suggest deeper incursions into the human psyche, blending with debates reminiscent of which came first, the egg or the existential crisis every grad student Googles into the night. As the sun arches higher, bringing its warm hues to wash over the fortress walls, whispers of the approaching evening begin to draft themselves in the minds of those gathered. There's a lingering promise of rest, a whispered promise of laughter, and hearts warmed by shared fires once the day's defense work is tucked gently away. The The air around you holds a special kind of vibe, much like those lazy Sunday afternoons where time seems to stretch and eternity feels tangible, urging you into a leisurely embrace with mindfulness. It's strange, finding familiarity even in such different circumstances, almost like acknowledging that across time, the heart and soul remain constants amidst shifting tides. As you go about your duties, weaving in and out of the morass of siege responsibilities, you find comfort in the notion that here, within these walls, every day is a page yet written. It is a delicate dance between what is and what might become, painting each chapter in strokes that echo in the silhouettes of shared human endurance. And as the day bows towards evening, the steady rhythm of tasks winds down, paving stone paths toward hearthsides and gentle repose. This world, with its unerring spirit of camaraderie and resilience, holds true to its quiet promise, protecting its own, encircled by heartbeats, both seen and unseen. With night approaching, you anticipate the tender night tones that will blanket your thoughts in calmness and drift you once more into the comforting arms of sleep, knowing that tomorrow awaits with open arms, awaiting new stories, tales unfurling across the dawn, just as the night gathers you close with dreams unspoken yet to be remembered. As twilight gently draws its veil across the sky, the chatter around the campfire takes on a softer, more introspective tone. The day's labors, now behind you, leave a satisfied kind of fatigue in their wake, like the feeling you get when you finally tackled a laundry pile that threatens to eclipse your couch. With each passing moment, the fortress seems to settle deeper into its own rhythms, the boundaries of the day morphing seamlessly into evening's embrace. Nestled among your companions, the warmth of the fire fights back the evening chill. Its flickering light plays upon the faces of those around you, as if attempting to capture stories left untold. There's a timeless quality to this moment, a comforting ritual that transcends the ages, where the mere presence of others brings solace to the weary spirit. As you sit back, savoring the taste of a simple meal shared between friends, your thoughts meander toward yet another historical tidbit. During sieges, meals often became the centerpiece of social activity, with limited resources requiring creativity to stretch provisions. People gathered around communal tables, sharing the bounty of the day, which seemed to make the provisions go just a little bit further, like trying to share Wi-Fi in a crowded cafe, and it miraculously still working. The conversation occasionally drifts to the quirks of siege life, with someone inevitably recounting the tale of how enterprising merchants or even enterprising soldiers used to smuggle supplies past the enemy lines. Using everything from hollowed-out logs to disguised carts, they turned the smuggling into an art form, akin to the smuggling antics one might find in an imaginative children's tale, or your attempts to sneak sweets past your diet plan. Historians still ponder which creativity fueled these daring actions more, desperation or sheer resourcefulness. It's a debate akin to wondering if necessity breeds innovation, or if innovation breeds necessity. A timeless chicken and egg scenario that finds its echoes even today in the unending march of progress. With the evening weaving shadows into a delicate tapestry, your senses retreat into the comforting embrace of companionship, laughter, weaving a protective circle of warmth and familiarity around you. Amid talk of fortifications and tomorrow's promises, you find comfort in the friendship forged by shared obstacles. There's a shared understanding that wafts through these dusky reflections, a reminder that despite the trials of siege life, or the perceived obstacles of modern existence, the human spirit is crafted from a unique blend of resilience and humor. Such camaraderie has powered civilizations through countless hardships, turning obstacles into challenges and challenges into stories shared under starlit skies. As voices soften the crackling fire, from a vibrant dance of flames to glowing embers, hum softly, akin to the electric purr of a fridge late at night, cycling on just as you think it's safely silent. Your eyelids grow heavier, heralding the approaching embrace of sleep, urging you to surrender to dreams cradled in the softness of night. As you prepare to slip into slumber once more, you can't help but feel connected to all those hearts that have known the weight of time's embrace, where history and future both intertwine, inviting you to dream deeply and freely. So, you nestle down under the comforting blanket, feeling as though you're part of a narrative far grander than any single siege or challenge of the present. Surrounded by the gentle snores and whispered dreams of those you've shared your day with, you slip, almost willingly, into the peace offered by night's tender harbor. As slumber tenderly tucks you in with the night's enduring lullaby, life's echoes drift and settle into tranquil patterns, awaiting the sun's renewal. Tomorrow promises new adventures, colorful tales illuminating the dawn, another chapter waiting patiently to write itself into the annals of your journey, as history and imagination walk hand in hand. The early morning light breathes softly into your makeshift quarters, stirring you gently from the depths of sleep with its tender caress. You blink awake, lingering in that sweet liminal space between waking and dreaming, where everything feels possible and the weight of the world is still held aloft by night's swiftly departing embrace. The fortress awakens with you, breaking the silence with the familiar sounds of a day re-emerging. You stretch, feeling each muscle unfurl like a vine reaching for sunlight, your body slowly shaking off the remnants of sleep's grasp. The chilly morning air offers a crisp greeting, the kind that invigorates your senses, preparing you for the day's endeavors. The sounds of life bustling back into motion around you send your spirit soaring, a harmonious symphony that matches your own inner rhythm, much like the comforting hum of a favorite playlist gently looping through your earbuds. As you join your companions for another day of gritty determination, you're greeted with the now familiar smell of earthy stew simmering over a communal fire. There's a kind of poetry to this simplicity, a nourishment that extends beyond the physical, stoking warmth deep within. These gatherings at dawn remind you that history's touch is gentle, and despite its uncertainty, it holds an elegance akin to an old, soft-spoken friend sharing a leisurely breakfast. Here's an interesting historical morsel to chew on as you break your fast. During protracted sieges, soldiers and civilians might share profound connections in the most unlikely of places. Communal kitchens often acted as both places of sustenance and hubs for creativity, where cooks experimented with enhancing flavors and textures without the benefit of fresh ingredients. It's not unlike trying to bake with missing ingredients, substituting everything possible until you have a dessert that surprises even yourself. Meanwhile, today's small army of tinkerers prepares the fortress for impending repairs, adjusting walls reinforced by determination and hastily crafted ingenuity. Among the chatter, minds work together as if in a well-rehearsed play, plotting tasks like the cast of a school drama production, weaving magic from cardboard facades. Engaging in repairs might seem tedious to some, but here it flows as a ballet of strategy, each task seamlessly meshing with the next, evoking skillful acrobatics across a circus high wire woven with human synergy. And while you work, a humorous anecdote threads through your thoughts about how besieged defenders, with nothing else to waste, would occasionally fling cheese over the walls in a bold declaration of surplus, or perhaps as an improvised projectile. Historians laugh about whether such gestures were acts of bravery or intended contraband diplomacy. Either way, cheese diplomacy has a certain ring to it, one that curiously reverberates through history. Historians still puzzle over whether some of the more whimsical siege tactics were rooted purely in strategy or marinated in the bravado that often accompanies shared hardship. Like spending hours planning a witty retort to a comment thread that only garners a chuckle, but feathers goodwill among allies. As the sun arcs higher, you pause briefly, reminded of the importance of stepping back to view the bigger picture. A practice also applied within your own life's siege, where work emails morph into fictional foes or mundane routines take on epic consequences. And just like the present, history reveals that those living under siege often found solace in recognizing this grand tapestry of existence, where the fabric of endurance and levity interwoven gains strength with every stitch. As the afternoon settles in, those around you start to tire, yet there's a resilience that maintains motivation. Joint tasks help lighten the load, and the camaraderie buoy souls burdened by heavy times. You glance around, comforted by the knowledge that the bonds forged in these moments build fortresses stronger than stone could ever replicate. Even as evening beckons with its promise of rest, whispers of history's echo inspire the imagination to transform ordinary tasks into legends worthy of retelling. Your heart, as much a part of this world as it is bonded with your own, anticipates the whispers of the campfire, a balm for busy minds nurtured within the tranquil circle of shared stories. With night extending its star-studded hands to draw the day to its gentle close, you find peace within these walls, both the physical and the metaphorical. Here lies the heart of humanity, a flame eternal, carried across time, igniting curiosity and kindling connection. You slip into the comforting pattern of evening's embrace, letting the rhythms of the fortress cradle you into slumber's gentle grasp, a place where history meets dreams, ever intertwined in the timeless dance of life. As the gentle hues of dusk settle over the fortress, the campfire becomes a beacon of light and warmth, drawing everyone close like moths to a flame. You feel the familiar glow washing over the group, the flickering fire casting playful shadows that dance along the stone walls, turning the evening into a tapestry of movement and light. The chatter around the fire is a continuous stream of stories spun from the day's events, a soothing ritual where voices blend into the night air, much like music, playing softly from an old radio, comforting in its persistent simplicity. It's a gathering of souls, bound by shared challenges and the companionship they kindle among themselves, forming bonds as solid as the walls encircling you. Amid sips of warmth and shared morsels, someone recounts a tale of a siege that lasted longer than anyone expected, where defenses evolved into elaborate mazes of ingenuity. Families would construct complex barriers within their homes, using everything from furniture to produce clever designs worthy of setting new standards in makeshift engineering. The resourcefulness and resilience of it make you chuckle, reminiscent of how someone can endlessly rearrange a room to ensure both style and functionality, a task forever unfinished, yet intensely satisfying once complete. And here's a whimsical fact. In some sieges, defenders engaged in mock battles among themselves, complete with jesters and musicians, turning techniques of war into entertainment, tension into relief. It was a welcome distraction, much like losing yourself in a favorite video game or thrilling show binge, forming adventures in your mind as a way to navigate the perils of the day. As the evening unfolds, others share stories of their own, about outwitting siege tactics with skilled negotiations or creative distractions involving acrobatics and parlor tricks, an odd but historical version of a siege breaker folding humor into history's mysteries. Historians still discuss whether these distractions were born from bravado or boredom, but perhaps it's their shared levity that's worth cherishing most. The heart of the conversation drifts gently into musings and what-ifs, dots painting a mosaic for tomorrow's canvas. There's an ease that soothes the tired bones, a collective awareness that acknowledges in hushed tones the trials endured. It's in those quiet nods and smiles that you see it, a glimpse of hope, sustaining each soul through trials and timeless hardships. As laughter fades, closing around conversations like a cozy, much-loved blanket, you let your gaze drift to the stars, their steady light peering down like ancient storytellers whispering messages across centuries. Starlight stretches over you, binding together moments of wonder, curiosity, and shared understanding. A timeless connection that speaks to your heart, a heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of history itself. Gradually, the fire's flicker tempers into embers, casting warm glows on faces that soften into relaxation. The space between words grows, giving way to the lull of night, pitching soft melodies that beckon you further into tranquil repose. Underneath your breath, carried gently by the wind's sweet whispers, you murmur the unspoken, promises and dreams yet to unfold with the rising sun. Finally, as night blankets the camp in serenity, you nestle into the comforting embrace of your makeshift bed, feeling the gentle weight of shared stories and cherished camaraderie guiding you into a slumber as soft as a lullaby. The fortress around you dissolves into the dreamscape, melding into an endless exploration of reverie and recollection, a place where history and imagination wander together amidst the twinkling company of stars. With a contented sigh, you let yourself be carried away by the gentle rhythms of sleep, knowing that dawn will weave another tapestry of experiences, ready to greet you with open arms and new tales cradled gently in its light. Peaceful dreams drift through your mind, buoyant and light as you rest securely within history's embrace, a dreamer intertwined within the endless cycle of time.